Newcastle against Arsenal is Sunday. Crook and I are going. Are we going? Crook, are we going? Are we going? Are we going?
Just about,
Are
I
we
think,
going?
yeah.
Just about.
I'm
Okay.
leaving. I'm
Okay.
leaving
Just
now
checking.
after this
Okay.
podcast.
Just checking. Just checking. We're going. We're going to be there Sunday afternoon, 4:30. Newcastle against Arsenal. Game day live coming from St James's Park. 1:30 start on your radio and your app. Arsenal have conceded 2. They've scored 12 goals across 6 games, and I suppose if you look at it in that way, you go 2 goals a game. That's absolutely fine. That's standard. But 5 of those goals came against Leeds United, and they struggled to create chances against Port Vale in midweek. I was there at Vale Park, and despite the fact that they played a very strong team in that game, Scott, this game's not a usually high-scoring match anyway. And I just wonder if Arsenal's lack of goal return is starting to concern anyone, or is there anyone sort of thinking, actually, do you know what? They haven't really been able to create enough just yet.
I think it's going to be fascinating team selection. After the team selection against Manchester City and what's been said after that as well. I defend Mick. I like him. I like him a lot. I like what he's done at Arsenal, and I defend him with that Liverpool game, both in terms of team selection and substitutes at the time that he did them and the scoreline at that particular time. I don't feel I can defend him with Manchester City against a poor Manchester City side, and I say that comparing them to how they've been in recent years. A Manchester City side that are just literally, just didn't do what Pep does. And that's a story in itself. But this is going to be a game that they quite simply have to win. And it's not going to be easy to do. Now, Newcastle don't score many goals either, so I can see just one goal winning this. But I think it's going to go back to type. I really do. I think it's going to make it difficult just because it's such a tough game. And he's going to have his finishers, as he says, on the bench. I think he's stubborn. You need to be stubborn, but sometimes a strength can be a weakness. And as I say, I've been with him all along and admired his work. But it can't just be enough to say, oh, they'll be up there at the end of the season. They have to be winning the Premier League title, or if not, losing by a point on the final day. And at this moment in time, they're not showing enough, either to Arsenal fans or to neutrals, that they actually want to go for the win. And Liverpool, with the way they're winning at the moment, not playing well, not in second or third gear, God, if they click, then the season could be done again by April.
Interestingly, because Arteta is aware of this narrative that is doing the rounds, he sort of came up with a bit of a defence talking about the handbrake. He was saying that no team have dominated Manchester City the way we dominated Manchester City. I do think there is a little bit of a agenda here in that people had decided that they were cautious before they saw the team selection. Once the team selection came out, it backed up the theory. The truth is he also made game-changing substitutions at half-time. Now, you can say that was a little bit too late or whatever, but at the same time, there does appear to be this sort of pervading narrative of overriding caution. What did you think of his defence of his tactics against Manchester City? And what do you think he's going to do on Sunday?
Well, I don't think we're going to see much different on Sunday from what we usually get with Mikel Arteta. I think, like you, I'm not expecting a goal fest because you look at Newcastle this season, they're still trying to find a solution to score goals without Alexander Isak. I think their last 3 away games in the Premier League have all ended in goalless draws. So defence at the moment is their strongest part of the team. They'll try and frustrate Arsenal. I would imagine it will be quite a defensive midfield again that Mikel Arteta selects because he's going to be very respectful of Newcastle. My take on it on Sunday was that you can praise Arteta for making the changes that he did and being decisive at half-time, but you can also criticise him for actually picking the wrong team in the first place. And my issue with Arteta, and I've said this a few times over the last few years, I've said it when I've been on programmes with you, I think he deserves tremendous credit for making Arsenal relevant again, for transforming them to a side who were just about qualifying for the Europa League to one who've gone really close to winning the Premier League title in each of the last 2 or 3 seasons. But I think ultimately he'll be judged as the man who couldn't quite get Arsenal over the line. And maybe it's harsh, but somebody did suggest to me in the aftermath of that Man City game, this is someone who spent a lot of his playing career under David Moyes. He wasn't a serial winner, Arteta, as a player. And maybe that's rubbing off on him in the dugout as well.
Um, I wonder what team he's going to pick because he hasn't got Madueke this weekend.
Saka
Erdegaard
will play.
wasn't fit to play. Saka obviously got a kick in midweek against Port Vale. It was quite a nasty little one as well. He will be forced into changes, but I'm not sure that he can afford to start a midfield of Rice, Marino, and Zubimendi and not come away with a victory in this game, Scott, because then the criticism really will start to ramp up.
Do you know what, Sam? I mean, we can talk left, right, and centre about what we think he should do. Ultimately, if you speak to managers who have been managers and experienced managers, and I do, it's about winning games. And what does that mean? How do you get to winning games? You either make one decision or you make the other. One thing you have to do, which to be fair to him, he does, you have to go with your own principles and your own convictions. But if he goes with that same midfield and they don't get the win, even if he can justify this is Newcastle away, and even though they don't score goals, with the fans, with their physicality and the athleticism that they have, it's such a difficult place to go. Then that narrative is just going to keep on going. It's almost as if I just felt it's almost at the two games, Manchester City at home or Newcastle away. Newcastle away is the midfield where you pick those three. It's not Manchester City at home. Go at them. They're vulnerable. And we saw that in the way that they played and the tactics.
Yeah.
So it's almost now, whatever he does, he has to win the game because I'm with Crookie. And you talk about finishers come off the bench. I mean, Madueke was injured, don't forget. So he had to come off. So
Absolutely.
that was an enforced one. And finishers, however you dress it up, you still want your best players on the pitch for as long as possible. So if you're on the bench, yes, you can change the game. I mean, Erling Haaland could be an unbelievable finisher. Imagine him coming off the bench with 30 minutes to go when you're all tired and him bombing on in behind. But he starts every game if he's fit because he's one of the best players in the team. The best players need to be starting. But ultimately, yeah, going back to Arteta, if he doesn't win this one, and especially if they lose, I tell you what, the knives will be out.
Erling Haaland could be an unbelievable finisher in that sense. He is an unbelievable finisher in the other sense. Is Victor Gyökeres, Crook?
Well, I don't think we can compare him to Erling Haaland yet. I felt a little bit sorry for him against Manchester City because obviously everyone will say, well, this is another big game where Gyökeres has not turned up, same as at Old Trafford, same as at Anfield. It plays into the narrative that I've used about him being a flat track bully, but ultimately didn't really get the opportunity to shine in that game because the service wasn't there. I'm not sure.
And that service has got to come from the midfield, right? So the lack of magic in that midfield, and that's no disrespect to Marino and to Rice and to Zubimendi, but the lack of sort of creativity and the spark and the little bit of cuteness, which Eze provides, for example, would give him that, would it?
Potentially, but I was just going to say, I'm not sure he's going to get much change out of Sven Botman and Dan Burn this weekend. I thought the pair of them, Burn in particular, were exceptional against Bournemouth last weekend. And he has had a habit of being marked out of games by big central defenders. Matthijs de Ligt did a job on him at Old Trafford. Canate did the same at Anfield. So I'm not sure this is the game where Gyökeres is going to turn people's opinions of those who maybe doubt his ability at the top level.
We've already decided that our Christmas party this year is going to be a Nick Voltemade fancy dress party, Scott, because we love his look so much. Is he going to start this game or is he going to be on the bench for Newcastle?
Yeah, I heard you saying about he's sort of from the 90s. I think Perry said from the 80s. I would have said 70s personally. He looks like a 70s cop, doesn't he?
He is so cool. I love him.
In a Starsky and Hutch, almost like that third cop type of thing. He has to start. He has to start. I mean, Newcastle are struggling to score goals. You've just spent the amount of money you've spent on him. He needs to get up to the pace of the game. I mean, what a game. And he's going to learn a lesson coming up against arguably the best central defensive partnership, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe. But he has to start. You have to start your best players. You have to start, if you put that amount of money in, give him a chance and a run of games. I'm not going to judge him on this particular game because Arsenal are so good defensively. But he has to start. And just on Gyökeres, you and I, when we were talking late last night, Sam.
Oh, yes, we did have a conversation about that, didn't we?
We did. People have to remember he's not fit. He kind of did a Visser and an Isak in Sporting where he wasn't training and he didn't want to sort of get involved in pre-season. So I see him making the runs, but I think he's half a yard short at the moment. I still think Arsenal need to realise they do have a number 9 in their ranks, and it's not necessarily play the ball up to him when you've got 2 centre halves hanging off you and he hasn't kept the ball up. But it's about getting the ball wide, getting in behind, and whipping it across. There. That's when you've got to get in the way that Igor Jesus did, last night for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, there was one particular moment last night when he came off the bench, the ball went over the top. Max Dowman played a lovely ball and it just floated over his shoulder. Now, I'm thinking maybe if he's up to full speed, Gyökeres, he allows it to bounce and then hits it as it comes back up off the half volley. Or he hits it first time as it drops over his shoulder. It goes across the goalkeeper and flashes into the far corner. But what he did is he allowed it to bounce, then took a touch, then tried to go round the goalkeeper, by which point the defender is across to block the effort. And, that speed of thought, that quickness of movement needs to be right up there, especially if you're playing for Arsenal and you're leading the line. I want him to succeed, Victor Gyökeres, as you know from the pre-season podcast. And I want Arsenal to succeed a little bit because I do like Mikel. And I know Crook doesn't like the fact that I like him, but I do like Mikel.
Did you call him before you called me last night as well?
He's on speed dial 1, Crookie.
This is still probably 3 weeks away, maybe even a month as well. That'd be important for Newcastle to get him back. But I get the feeling this is a kind of game that Joel Linton and Bruno and Dan Burn, they'll really fancy, won't they? I mean, because they don't like Arsenal and they like to ramp it up against them. There's been a bit of history between the two, a bit of needle between the two before. We've had some spicy moments. We think we'll probably get 1 or 2 more.